The pandemic has been difficult for all of us. For some, this has been a year of grief. Today we're going to talk to an artist who's turned to songwriting and home recording to work through that. Stick around. Welcome to Charlie's Open Mic. My name is Charlie Mosbrook. On this week's show, we have a singer-songwriter named Jesty. He has been nominated for Album of the Year by the Cleveland Scene magazine, but for him, 2020 has been a year of grief, and we're going to talk to him about how he has used songwriting and home recording as a means to work through that process. But before we get into that conversation, let's listen to his music.
Tell anyone all the things that we have done. Promise that you'll break the promises you made to the last one. Say you wanna get lost with me. Say you wanna get lost. Say my songs are stuck in your head. Take a chance, don't regret a single thing. Don't try in silence what's best left unsaid. And say you wanna get lost with me. Say you wanna get lost. Say say I didn't mean anything to you. Say I'm not your friend. Tell me I was making it all up. Yeah, it was just something I was imagining. Oh, say you're stuck in my mind. Say you're trapped in my heart. Say as we go crashing into the ground, and we really ought to stop falling apart. Oh, say you wanna get lost with me. Say you wanna get lost. Say you wanna get lost with me. Oh, say you wanna get safe to get lost. Just know you don't say you found your home in me, unless you're coming home.
Well, welcome to the show, Jesty.
Thanks for having me, Charlie.
You bet. So you are a Cleveland-based artist. Did you grow up in Cleveland?
I did. Yeah, Lakewood, and then over to Olmsted Falls. So one of those Clevelanders who wasn't like Cleveland proper, but just outside.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm in Parma.
Was music something that you did growing up as a kid, or was your family musical?
Family was musical. Mom was the soloist singer at church growing up, and my dad was actually spent years trying to be a trombone player in a big band, and then picked up full guitar himself. And my mom had a creed that I had to learn how to play piano. I had to take lessons from 6 to 12, and I couldn't stand piano. And then at 12, I said, all right, I'm done. And then I stepped into the guitar trap and never. That was my thing.
Were you 12 when you got your first guitar?
Somewhere around there, 10 or 11. I think the first guitar was I think the brand name was Stella, and it was given to me by the organ player at my church. Mm-hmm. And it was this beat up old Stella guitar that the strings were warped, the neck was warped, it barely stayed in tune. And I sat there and I got the E chord, but it just sounded terrible, and then you'd have to retune it after you strummed it once. And for some reason I kept playing it.
That's cool. Did the piano help you adapt to the guitar then?
No, because I was stubborn as a kid, and I didn't. The deal was the teacher that I had was a good teacher as far as I'm going to teach you technically how to play the piano. But what she didn't grasp is for some reason the only thing I latched onto was songs. Mm-hmm. So if you're telling me to play this exercise, which I know was an exercise about half notes or quarter notes or 16th notes or mixing them together, I'm just looking at it, or it's the fifths, about fifths, whatever. I'm looking at it, I'm bored because it just feels like an assignment that leads to nothing. Like I couldn't piece together as a kid how the technique led to something that I would actually enjoy, like a song. Mm-hmm. Because I loved music. I knew that much. I had some records and cassette tapes that I really enjoyed as a kid. But when I was playing piano, it just felt like a chore, and I didn't see how the chore led to anything. So the piano teacher at one point gave me an easy note Beatles book. Not the full chords, but it was just kind of a partial representation of these songs, and it sounded close enough. For the month and a half we worked on that book, I showed up ready and attentive and excited to play, because I was playing something and I recognized it and I knew it and it all made sense. And then she ended up getting me a book of show tunes, and I didn't know all of those tunes, but the ones I recognized, I was able to internalize and practice, and I was excited about. But then as soon as we went back to the technique books, it was just, it just was another couple of years where I was just like, I still don't like this at all. What was strange, the story goes, so I wake up at 12, or 2 weeks before 12, and I say, Mom, I'm about to become 12. I don't want to do this piano thing anymore. It's misery for me. You said 6 to 12, that's the deal. She goes, okay. I go to sleep, and I have this dream, and all the dream is I am on a stage, and there's a light on me on the stage, so I cannot tell who I'm playing with, and I cannot tell who I'm playing to, but it is, I guess, this weird thing that defined me. Because I woke up and I was like, wow, that's it. I got to play guitar. And then I went and told my mom, and she's like, well, that's just ridiculous, because you just told me I wasted 6 years of lessons on piano. And I'm like, yeah, but trust me though. And so we finished the piano lessons. I got the guitar. My dad had a guitar, and he would pull his guitar out 1 to 3 times a year and play folk. He had about a 6-song repertoire of songs that he would play. Froggy Went A-Courtin', mm-hmm. Time in a Bottle. But he played that, forgive me, I don't know the actual picking name for it, but where you utilize your thumb as the bass guitar. And I would watch him do that, and I just never saw anyone else doing it. So to me, I was mind blown, oh, you could play this guitar like it's 2 things? That's kind of cool. But he would only do that a couple times a year, and it just, I don't know. Then, of course, I wanted to get an electric guitar because that was cool and hip and rock and roll. And then my guitar teacher looked at my hands and said, you're a bass player. You've got the hands of a bass player. So all of a sudden my electric guitar lessons became bass lessons. And then I got a bass guitar. And once a month, I would be allowed to bring my regular guitar and say, "Hey, this is a song on the radio I really like. Can you show it to me?" You know, I was always curious of that picking style, so I tried to mimic what I saw my dad doing. I couldn't for years, or I could only fake my way through it. Right. The whole journey of being a musician has been to gain that confidence and that ability to kind of go it alone. When I first had a guitar, the goal, even though I was in my room working on songs and things like that, was to eventually get a group of people behind me to play. Like that was the end goal, always band. And I never really focused as a guitar player on solos. I was always just trying to figure out chord progressions. So the bass guitar would inform me, because obviously when I watched my guitar teacher learn songs, all he was doing was trying to find the bass note or the root note of the chord and then figuring out the rest from there. And once I saw what he was doing to learn things by ear, that's how I started doing it myself, learn the bass part, build up from there. The rule for me was make whatever song you want, however you want to make it, and then learn how to play it live as a solo artist. In general, that's been the trajectory, has been, bands, to finally being comfortable and confident enough to play completely by myself. And then one day when I get tired of carrying the amp, I'll just do stand-up comedy.
Right. When did you discover songwriting as something that you were going to embrace?
But I was writing lyrics in a notebook at age 6, I think. I was an only child, and I've spent a lot of time playing games by myself, making board games by myself, creating things by myself. So it just got to a point where I felt like writing songs was my favorite outlet of all the stuff that I created.
Do you record at home?
Mm-hmm. Primarily these days, yep.
Primarily.
With varying degrees of understanding of what I'm doing.
What do you work in? Do you use a DAW,
Yeah, I use Digital Performer. I lived out in Boston for a couple of years, and the first producer we worked with was using Digital Performer, so he kind of turned me on to that. I went to the Tri-C Recording Art Technology program, and they kind of push you towards Pro Tools. It's just really expensive to work in Pro Tools. When I started writing songs, it was just, here's a mic going into a tape deck, Right. I used it to demo things, but then when I had a band, we would put the drummer in the back of the room and the singer would stand by the microphone, and then I would be somewhere in the middle if I had an amp. And even to this day, it's all on your phone now, right? Every time you got a demo idea, it's just that voice memo pad. But the idea still stands with me that if it doesn't excite me when I play it back, then I'm probably never gonna go anywhere with whatever the idea was. I remember in, I think, 8th grade, I heard this melody in my head, and it was long before cell phones or any other device. And it was like, there was 2 periods left in school to go. So I wasn't paying attention to anyone. I was just humming it in my head over and over and over. And I ran home humming it over and over and over. And I picked up my guitar and I tried to find it, but I wasn't good enough in 8th grade to find what I was humming in my head that quickly, And I did one pass and I couldn't find the note, and I tried another note, and then it was gone. It just was out of my head. I couldn't find it, and then it was gone. And it was the best idea of my life, I thought at the time, And in some ways, I think I'm probably always trying to find whatever that melody was in the 8th grade that was going to make me a superstar,
Mm-hmm. So you began the year with the idea that you were going to create a new record. Of course, the pandemic came, everything sort of went haywire. It's really hard to promote new records. In the meantime, the record you did last year was just nominated by Scene Magazine for Record of the Year.
Yeah.
In Cleveland.
Yep. So but I think it was nominated for this year.
Which means that the work you did in the past has caught up to you and given you new life to proceed forward. But you're also doing something else that I think is important through the pandemic. We're all struggling to try to remain relevant when we can't go out and do any kind of live performance. But you've been doing singles.
I guess I had no idea what the intention was, but the fact that I'm trying to always work and craft something, it just makes sense to me to put out a song here or there on Bandcamp, see if there's anybody that goes wow or anybody that goes bleh, and kind of get an initial feel. My mom had passed on this year, and we think it might be from COVID. But either way, it's still not a good time, because it was a very sudden thing. What was weird is I found myself I think I was used to her support, right? Because I would put a song out on Bandcamp and, you know, it blasts out to your mailing list, which she was on. And she would write, it's a no reply email, but she would write back, which I found out after her passing, because I was able to log into her email at that point and realize that she was writing me like, oh, this is a really good song, or oh, your vocals need a little more work, or what, you know. I mean, she was supportive, but like firmly critical about things, you know. So, you know, the last thing I saw from that my mom had written me were things about the songs I'd put out up till March. For me, a normal is releasing songs or an EP or whatever. It's the fact that I just keep making music. All I wanted to do, of course, after my mother passed, besides grieve, was get back to a point where I felt normal. So making songs was important. I mean, my father passed like just shy of 20 years ago now. So it's very different grieving processes for both of them, because when my father passed, I was like a young 20-year-old and still trying to figure out the world. Well, when my dad passed, I had to grieve for my mother then, because she really lost who she was. She lost the narrative of who she was. So by the time she actually passed, I mean, it was unexpected and it was not wanted by any means, but there was this weird feeling of like, well, I have been grieving for 20 years, so I don't know what more to do at this point, you know, besides settle the legalese and stuff. But I'm still coming to terms with that stuff every day. But the whole point of my ramble about songwriting this year for me is it's the thing that normalizes me and brings me back to feeling real, you know. And I hope, as everybody who creates art and music hopes, that the music gets to people who are looking for it, and I hope it does something for them.
If you appreciate this content, please consider subscribing to the channel. Please ring the bell for notifications of upcoming episodes. Always click like and comment down below. Let us know what you're thinking. And you can find us at charliesopenmic.com and find our Patreon link to help support the show. My conversation with Joshua reminded me of how different this holiday is going to be for so many people. For Joshua, obviously, he's lost his mother this year, and it's going to be a very different Thanksgiving. I remember my first one without my mom. It's not easy. There's no simple way to get around it. You just got to go through that grief process. For a lot of us, including myself, our extended family, the people who we don't live with in our homes, we're not getting together with. It's just going to be my wife and myself and my cat, and we're going to enjoy Tofurkey. I'm going to miss having Thanksgiving with my dad and my in-laws and my sisters and my brother and all the people who are connected to us in life. It's sad. We didn't need to be here. Please wear a mask. You're done here now. You really messed up. Failed most famously, and you really screwed up. You should have screwed down. You knocked the ball off the tee, and you're the reason that we're losing this game, 'cause you gave it your worst, and you're the one to blame. It's your fault, all of it. I don't mean to rub it in, but it's your fault, all the wrong. I don't know where to begin. And you're responsible for everything you see, except for the good stuff. You did it. You're the one to blame. You've done me wrong, unfairly harmed me. You have crossed the line, but you never noticed, well, how you hurt me. I bet you did it by design. Now we're leaving, we're blame you for this song, for doing me wrong. 'Cause you're the one to blame. 'Cause it's your fault when it rains, well then it's coming down on me. And it's your fault when the train is late, and every tragedy it was made possible, and now will not hesitate to point it out. 'Cause you're the one to blame. Well, thanks for watching Charlie's Open Mic this week, and thank you to Joshua Jesty for sharing his story and music with us. As always, please hit that subscription link down below. Please ring the bell for notifications of upcoming episodes. Always click like and comment down below. Let us know what you're up to. And you can find us at charliesopenmic.com and find our Patreon link to help support the show. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.